Great day. Happy Monday. And welcome to this week's episode of The Health Class You Never Had. Today, we are talking about making healthy choices. With us on the panel today is Ketnu Nefer from A Soulful Touch Healing This. Ketnu, how about you introduce yourself? I am messing that up.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Ketnu Nefer, and I am the owner of A Soulful Touch Wellness, which is my holistic health and wellness company located in Washington, D.C., that's dedicated to helping women lead what I call a soulful life, and that's unapologetically being sound in mind, body, and spirit, holistically, practically, and affordably. So thank you guys for being here.
Thank you. Also with us on the panel today is Dr. Yu. Dr. Yu, take a moment and introduce yourself.
Peace, everyone. My name is Dr. Yu. I am a holistic wellness consultant, an herbalist, a percussionist. Glad to be here with you all to share some of this beautiful and encouraging and important information. Hope you enjoy our program today.
Thank you, Dr. Yu. So today we are talking about making healthy choices. I was having a conversation with Dr. Yu last week, and I was explaining to him that, I go to the Whole Food stores and I go to the organic stores and I buy all of these organic foods, but I keep having issues here and there and was trying to understand, well, if I'm buying all healthy stuff, why am I having issues? And then it just came, you're eating processed foods. And I'm going, processed foods? I'm eating healthy foods, but not understanding when I have a meat burger that's not meat, that plants and whatever went through a process to be presented to me in a way where I'm now eating what tastes like, feels like meat in my mouth, but isn't meat. So it was making health choices is something that we need to understand in a broad scope. We're going to have Ketnu present for us first today, just talking about the things that she knows about making health choices.
Thank you, Sister Precious. So I just basically wanted to talk about some of the basic healthy choices that we should make for ourselves. And I know in this time of the pandemic that we are more aware of how we should be making healthier choices, but what does that actually look like and what does that actually mean for someone who may not have had, the education or the availability, because that is an option that a lot of people are dealing with, especially in more of the urban areas like how we live here in DC. So knowing what it is, first and foremost, what it is to me to make a healthy choice, and then what are the healthier choices of those healthy choices? Because like Sister Precious just alluded to, there are things that are marked organic, natural, that aren't necessarily such. And it's become a commercialized opportunity for big business to capitalize on people wanting to be healthier, for us to get rid of diseases in the body. But as we all know, big pharma is, big money. And so they don't want us to know this information. And this is why you're tuned into the health class that you never had. The biggest thing for me is selecting a goal, making sure that you know what it is exactly that you're trying to do to obtain better health. It's one thing to say, I want to feel better or I want to be healthy, but what is that specific goal? What does that look like for you? Does that mean you incorporating better food choices? Does that mean you are exercising more? Does that mean that you are incorporating health and wellness supplements that are more beneficial for you? And again, you want to look at what those have in them so that you can make better choices with those as well. And so it's knowing what you should choose for yourself and making that your primary goal. And then ask yourself a big question. How will I implement this? How will I continue to be consistent with this? Because that's the one thing that I find a lot of times with my clients and myself personally is being consistent and being dedicated to the process and not taking the shortcuts, the non-healthy, healthy shortcuts, instead of sticking to the like my army sergeant used to say, choosing the hard right over the easy wrong. You know what I'm saying? And so when we choose those things that are challenging us to be healthier and stay committed to that healthy thing, is going to make us feel better and look better as well. And then, like I said, committing to yourself. And so what does that look like in practical terms? When we talk about foods, swapping out those healthy choices. It's easy to say, let's eat more fruits and vegetables, but we've gotten away from eating foods that are in season because things are being shipped from all over the world now. Things are being grown all year round. And just because they're available in the grocery store, even your Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, and all that other stuff, doesn't mean that they should be ingested this time of year, And so being mindful of that and knowing what's in season typically and eating those things so that you are building up your body macrobiotically. So you are eating what's good for you that's grown around this time. And I think a lot of people don't know that. They just know that, oh, I want strawberries. And they don't realize that strawberries don't always grow year round. They do it now, but before these times, strawberries grew in a particular season. Pears grew in a particular season. Apples, if you really pay attention, there are only a certain amount of apples that are grown around a certain time of year, So just knowing these things can help you to make greater, healthier choices. You're right, Sister Shelby, health equals nutrients and calories. And that's what is so important about educating people on knowing what is healthy nutrient wise, because just because it's available in the grocery store doesn't mean that it is nutritional or that it's beneficial to your body first and foremost. And so eating more raw fruits and vegetables is a great choice first off, adding more salads, adding more green leafy vegetables, adding more fresh fruit, instead of the processed canned stuff. If you're in a complete bind, the frozen vegetables would be the better choice than canned vegetables. So these are some of the healthy swap outs that you could do as far as your food is concerned, because I'm keeping it basic because I know we're going to talk about some of this stuff later. As a women's health practitioner, as far as our bodies, making healthier choices, even with our cosmetics, things that we're putting on our bodies. The one boom that I really like about this pandemic is seeing more Black-owned businesses and those who are doing more natural body care so that we are more aware of what we're putting on our bodies and how they affect our bodies, because shea butter is natural, but when you start adding fragrances that are not essential oils, that could hamper that because it's going to put more taxation on the liver. So again, learning how to read the ingredients on the body products that we're using, including perfumes, household cleaning products, all of these things are impacting our health. And so it's knowing what is good for you, because a natural solution, healthier solution for your cleaning solutions is good old white vinegar, instead of the Fabuloso and the Smell Good cleaning products that are very prevalent in melanated homes today. I even seen somebody posted a couple of years ago that they actually boil the Fabuloso on the stove for the fragrance. And I was like, oh my God, like all those carcinogens are being diffused into the air and all of that. So it's like, being mindful of these toxic chemicals that we are exposed to every day and actually reading the labels. There are a lot of great health companies that provide household cleaning products that are safe, essential oils. You can make your own cleaning products with essential oils. And so it spans the gamut. Like, this topic could go on for hours, you know what I'm saying? So, but that's just some of the things that I wanted to talk about at the top of the show, and just making people mindful of, reading labels, educating yourselves about what is healthy, and not just going by what's on the label, because as they say, it's organic. But if you really read the ingredients and it's stuff that you can't pronounce, then definitely look that up. We have these amazing computers. Our phones are more than just phones now. These are amazing computers. Utilize that and look these things up, because you don't know how they are impacting your body, our community, the world as a whole. And just think of collectively all of us using all these different things and how it's impacting the groundwater that we bathe in and some people still drink, and how it's affecting the plants and food, because if it's in the groundwater, if you're a farmer and all of that, the runoff goes into the foods that we are ingesting. So that's what I have to say briefly for right now. But if you have any further questions, feel free to type them in the comments below. And especially if you're watching this in the rebroadcast, we would definitely try to get the answers to your questions.
Thank you, Ketnu. I am going to circle back with some questions after Dr. Yu presents. Again, do ask any questions in the chat line. I'm going to check out whatever questions you all post to try to make sure we get things answered as much as we can in real time as well. Dr. Yu, what are you presenting for us this morning?
Well, thank you, Ketnu. Thank you, Sister Precious. I want to just kind of start out just where Ketnu was talking about in terms of reading the labels. That's a very, very important thing that a lot of people are not really in the practice of doing. And when you read the labels, you find out a whole lot of information if you understand how to read them. One thing that's very important to realize when you're reading labels is that usually, especially in food products, whatever is at the top of the ingredient list, so when it says ingredients and then it lists the different ingredients in each product, most often is listed in the order of prevalence. So if you have a product and its first ingredient is sugar, that's what it tends to have the most of. If you have a product and the last ingredient is blue number 5, or the last ingredient is turmeric, or the last ingredient is garlic or salt, that's what it has the least of. So understanding that, and understanding that when you buy products, you want to make the decisions that are best for you in terms of what's going to have the biggest impact on my overall health. Is it going to be, do I want the things that I consume to be mostly healthy, or do I want the things that I consume to be mostly degrading type of ingredients? The things that we don't know how to pronounce. As one of my teachers used to say, if you don't know how to pronounce things on the label, it's probably best you don't buy it. So just simple philosophy on that. Many things, they have abbreviations, and we don't understand what those abbreviations mean. As Ketnu said, look those things up. EDTA and these type of preservatives that are listed as ingredients on these products that prevent the spoilage, that prevent bacterial growth and things like that, often have adverse effects, are considered to be cancer causing agents or cancer contributing agents inside of the body. And then people wonder over time of eating the same things, like, why is my circulatory system not working right? Why is my heart not pumping right? Why is my blood pressure going up constantly? Why, all of these different complications that can come up from the gradual buildup of eating these unhealthy ingredients. But the bulk of what I really want to talk about is more so on the nutritional side, especially for people who are considering going into plant-based eating, as a healthier option for lifestyle, and for, changing your overall well-being. And some of the common questions that tend to come about are things like, where do you get your protein from? Where, what kind of fats and things like that should you be eating? And those answers are going to vary from person to person. But what I'd like to do is just give some general rules of thumb. So number one, I wanted to explain about protein, because that's a common misconception. People think that the only way that you can really get sufficient protein in terms of what you eat is through animal proteins, through meat, through dairy products, through yogurt, cheese, etc. And that's far from the truth. The truth is that proteins are composed of amino acids. And amino acids are considered to be the building blocks of life. That means that anything that's living, anything that's alive or has been alive, contains amino acids. And those amino acids in combination make up proteins. Once the body consumes the protein in whatever form of amino acid chain that it is, the liver still has to break apart those proteins back into amino acids, and the body reassembles the proteins that the body needs. So that is very, very important to realize, because once you realize that, that means that you don't always have to focus on getting a lot of protein. You just need to make sure that you're getting the variety of foods, of life-giving foods, living foods, plant-based foods in different categories, etc., that's going to give you the full spectrum of the 21 or so different amino acids. And more than anything, there's 9 essential amino acids that the body needs, that it has to get from food. And the body can assemble the rest of those amino acids and proteins that it needs once it gets those essential 9. So that's important to realize, just eating a wide variety of foods. Now, the protein is more concentrated in terms of legumes, which is your bean family, beans, lentils, and peanuts, things of that nature. Also, your nuts and your seeds, your sunflower seeds, almonds, pumpkin seeds, hemp seeds, which is actually one of the best types of protein, and also your whole grains, things like whole wheat, quinoa, millet, oats, etc. These things are like your primary sources of concentrated protein from the plant-based perspective. So as long as you're getting a wide variety of these different things, and of course your fruits and vegetables, which have proteins to a lesser degree or lesser quantity, but it should be able to fuel the proteins that your body needs. Now, for protein supplements that people are using for working out, or if you need additional protein, it's good to make sure to look for whole food based proteins. So you want to stay away from things that are isolates, and things of that nature, because those types of proteins, they basically break down differently in the body. And if the body has too much protein as well, the body only really needs about 1/3 of your body weight in grams of protein per day. So if I'm a person who weighs 150 pounds, I need about 50 grams of protein per day. So if I'm exceeding over that, then the body has to try to break that down, and it creates a lot of waste byproducts that are acidic and starts to damage and break down the organs of the body. So protein shouldn't be a huge focus in terms of switching to a plant-based way of eating. So healthy fats, same thing, is best to come from your plant-based whole foods, avocados, nuts, seeds, and things of that nature. Those are the things that tend to have your healthy fats, more so in their raw form, instead of being cooked. Once you start to cook and heat up fats, a lot of times they change into things that the body doesn't break down well. Same thing with oils, so you want to stay away from refined oils and look at more unrefined oils if you're using oils in terms of consumption. Unrefined is always better than refined, because refined means that it goes through a big heating process that changes the chemical structure, which is why refined oils never have odor or real taste to it. Things like vegetable oil, sunflower oil, avocado oil, safflower oil, these are constantly, commonly refined oils that many people get on the market and use on a regular basis. Even canola oil can be put into that category as well. So you want to look for more unrefined oils. Olive oil, most of the time you'll find olive oil, if it has a taste to it and a scent to it, it's unrefined typically, and that's kind of like the thing that you can go for. You want to get things that taste like where it came from. So if it's sunflower seed oil and it doesn't taste like a sunflower seed, something's a little off with it. But another quick thing that I want to just kind of go through is some brief substitutions, that you can utilize that are healthier options for things like sweeteners, salt, so in terms of sweeteners, instead of white sugar has a lot of damaging effects on the body that's very well documented, as well as artificial sweeteners such as what do you call it? Saccharin, which is in stuff like Sweet and Low or Equal, or Splenda, and those kind of things like that. Saccharin, and I forget the name of the other type of sweeteners that are in the other brands that I just mentioned. But instead of those things, you want to utilize more natural, unrefined sweeteners. Those are easier for the body to handle, even though they're all concentrated sweeteners. They're easier for the body to handle. And so when I was speaking with Sister Precious last week about how sugar is made. If you look that up, you can look it up actually on YouTube. And there's a whole video that kind of walks you through the process of sugar processing, how the common white sugar is made that we consume, many of us consume regularly on an everyday basis. And when you look at that and you just kind of apply your own common sense to it, and it's like, I often ask the question, when you take sugar cane, which is where it came from, sugar cane, and you have sugar cane and sugar cane juice, which one you think is sweeter? And even if you've never had sugar cane before, if you think about an apple and apple juice, which one is sweeter? Well, the juice is going to be sweeter because it doesn't have all of those filters that the natural fruit has, or even with the cane that the natural cane has. So when you take that and you boil it and you evaporate the water from it, which is going to be sweeter? That juice that has all of that water content, or the boiled out evaporated version of it, which the water is not there to balance out the sugars? Well, of course, the evaporated one is going to be sweeter. Then it just continues to go down a line of different things to concentrate it and basically take the nutrition from it. So unrefined sweeteners, the difference with that is that they actually have nutrients in it. So it's not just an empty caloric type of empty calories, basically. You actually have nutrition, and those nutrients help the body to process the sugar and utilize it in a more efficient way. So B vitamins, iron, magnesium, calcium. All of these things are naturally contained in sugar and many of these other different types of sugar sources that are removed when you buy a lot of these refined sweeteners. So unrefined sweeteners, even from sugarcane, there's a product called Sucanat, Sucanat, which you can find in health stores. There's also one called Muscovado sugar. Muscovado sugar. You can look for that. You know, many even some grocery stores may carry it, but definitely more health stores tend to carry these types of sugar, which are unrefined sugars. You also have coconut sugar or palm sugar. You also have maple sugar or maple syrup. It used to be grade B. They changed it to grade A. So grade A, the dark amber, you know, is the more unrefined one, you know, which has the more characteristic maple taste to it naturally. You want to make sure that these things are all 100%. You know, then you have, of course, your whole fruits, which are really first on my list. Things like dates, raisins, apples, etc., grapes. Um, and then you can utilize things for those who have like issues with blood sugar, diabetes, and things of that nature. You have things like stevia or monk fruit, you know, which are good substitutes for healthier substitutes for things such as like Splenda or Equal or, you know, those type of name brands that I don't really want to give too much light to. But much, much better for your body. You know, they don't actually contain sugar. And in many cases, they actually can help the body to balance the sugar levels naturally without having the harmful effects to your circulatory system, to your brain, to your nervous system. You know, very, very important to avoid those things as they have well documented effects that are adverse. You know, those artificial sweeteners that are being constantly pushed, especially for the people who are diabetics or people who are trying to lose weight. You know, so the last thing that I want to touch on is the store-bought juices. Many of them are pasteurized, you know, which means that it goes through a high heating boiling process, which again, it kills the bacteria, but it also kills the enzymes, you know, which help the body to better process the nutrients from it. And it also tends to um, concentrate the sugars. So it makes it higher in sugar than even the fresh juice, you know, and it kills a lot of the nutrients and a lot of the enzymes. So fresh juice is better. You can also utilize herbal teas as a beverage. Fresh squeezed lemonade, very good. Fresh squeezed limeade, you know, and utilizing one of those natural sweeteners that I mentioned earlier. If you want to sweeten it up, you know, those are far better beverages for yourself, for your family, you know, than the store-bought juices, than the sodas, than the energy drinks, you know, that can give you many of those same effects, give you the good taste that you're looking for, you know, but still be healthier options. So, yeah, this is a few things that I just wanted to mention. I'm going to turn it over for some questions. I saw one question that I want to address. Somebody asked about natural sources of fiber. And the good thing about eating a whole plant-based, having a whole plant-based way of eating is that fiber is in everything. If you're eating whole plant-based foods, all whole plant-based foods have fiber. So you never have to worry about getting enough fiber or taking a fiber supplement. If you are eating other things, you know, things like, let's say, white rice, white flour, which are plant-based, but they're not whole plant-based foods. They tend not to have the same type of fiber content, and they tend to congest the body with more mucus and plaque and things of that nature. So the body may require more fiber sources. So either a supplement or switch those things out. Instead of doing white rice, maybe do brown rice. Instead of doing white flour, maybe do whole wheat flour, for those who eat wheat, instead of doing, whatever it is that tends to be the white modified version of that plant, switch it for the whole version of that plant. And many times that will work out much better, but that will also give you that fiber that you need, pretty much across the board. So thank you, Sister Shelby, for that question. I did see that. I might have missed a question or few in the process of just kind of going off the top of my head, but I'm going to turn it over to Sister Precious in case maybe you may have caught some of those or some questions you may want to throw in the mix. Sister Precious, you're muted.
Thank you, Dr. Yu. You answered the question that I was going to pull from the comments by Sister Shelby, so that was great. Also, you answered a question that I was going to ask you. How do we determine whole plants? When you describe going from the bleached and the white to having the whole plants, and I think a lot of times when we talk about things that we should be doing healthy, that we just keep in mind that not everybody even understands what may be basic terminology in the health field. The layperson won't understand. What do you mean by eating whole plant? Do I eat the roots? Do I eat the stems? Because that would be my first thought if you say eat the whole plant, But I'm even sure there's some benefits to eating even roots and leaves on some plants. But then how do you discern which plants and roots and stems do you eat and which ones wouldn't we eat? Is there a rule even for that?
Well, that's something that's also going to vary from person to person. I'm speaking of things that are easily accessible, that you would get in the grocery store, that foods that you would be able to buy yourself, make yourself, without too much of an issue, unless you're talking about allergies or something of that nature. But let's say if you have a carrot, and you have some people peel their carrots. I never peel my carrots. I just wash the outside really well and I eat the carrot as is. I never peel my cucumbers. I tend to buy more organic produce. And, with that, there's a little less to worry about in terms of pesticides and residues. Sometimes they may put like a wax coating on the outside of it, a food grade wax coating, but, I do my best to wash as much of that as I can. And I do my best to consume like the whole food that I'm getting, potatoes, sweet potatoes, all of those things like that. I tend to leave the peels on. It's the school of thought that I came from. Of course, things like fruits that have hard seeds in the middle or pits, you're not going to eat those kind of things, so you're going to use your basic common sense for the most part. But even some of the foods that have soft seeds, some of the fruits that have soft seeds, such as apples, pears, oranges, if you find seeded oranges these days, grapes. Actually, many of those seeds are edible in, reasonable quantities. And when I say reasonable quantities, like about a handful if you eat a handful of grapes and you consume the seeds with those, they're not going to do you any harm. 1-2 apples, you consume the seeds with those, they're not going to do you any harm, typically speaking. And in fact, they actually can be very beneficial because many of the seeds of these different fruits have actually been found to have anti-cancer kind of properties to them, anti-parasitic properties and all of that. So, that's what I mean when I'm talking about whole foods, just the things that you can typically get, but you want to, there are certain ones that you want to veer away from, but a lot of times the plants will give you cues to that. Something will be too hard to chew, or too fibrous on the outside and things of that nature, to where it's not even practical for you to eat. So most of the things that you can consume, you know, in the ways that we consume them, you just want to get the whole thing instead of fragmented parts of it.
Great, great. I had a question with the washing of fruit. I know I purchased a fruit wash. It's like a little spray in the Whole Food store to wash fruits. But I was often wondering to myself, is there a natural, organic way that I could just be cleaning my fruits? You know, we can run it under water, but you know, what are some other ways, especially if you're thinking about the waxings and stuff that's on different foods? What are some nice organic ways to actually clean your fruits? Vegetables.
Okay, well, I can answer that. One of the things that I use the most, Ketnua mentioned vinegar earlier. That's one of the things that I use the most in terms of my own personal journey. The fruit and veggie sprays, I don't discourage anybody from getting those. Those are good as well, you know, but I use vinegar. Some people use like lime or lemon juice, which has the citric acid. It's a natural disinfectant for many of the germs and things like that. And sometimes, like many of the, if you look at the ingredients on those fruit and vegetable washes, you'll see like the common ingredients are like citric acid and some type of basically like a soap kind of thing that's based from coconut oil. You know what I mean? So even like organic natural soaps, dishwashing detergent and things like that, especially Dr. Bronner's. Dr. Bronner's is one of those things where I use that as well sometimes, especially with the fruits and vegetables that might have like a tougher exterior where you can kind of scrub it a bit more. You know, I might use that Dr. Bronner's soap, dilute that, you know, and use that as a wash for the outside as well. Help to get off some of that wax and stuff like that also. You know, so either that or, you know, or not to just single out Dr. Bronner's as a name brand. They're the most popular, but the category would be Castile soaps, you know, Castile soaps. But you can utilize that, or you can utilize like a mixture of like vinegar, lemon juice, you know, and even maybe sometimes some type of soapy, natural soapy type substance to kind of get that kind of stuff off.
I
Great,
want to add
great.
to that too, real quick. You could also do a saltwater soak for that with a 10% dilution. So you would do, you know, a little more salt than water, and then just soak that for like 20 minutes. Apple cider vinegar is really good as opposed to white vinegar as well. So you could do either one of those. And there was something else that I wanted to say. Apple cider vinegar, you talked about the lemon juice, because I was going to jump in and say the lemon juice as well. Those are really great ways to, you know, natural, inefficient ways to clean your fruits and vegetables.
Okay. Thank you, Ketnu. I'm going to segue just a little bit when we're talking about healthier health choices, because I know you specialize in working with women's health.
Mhm.
And one more of a woman specific question I want to have in healthy is just talking about our sanitary needs. You know, when we're looking at sanitary napkins, and I was a fan of the Always brand because it kept me dry, and I didn't like feeling wet down there, and it smelled fresh, and I didn't ever want people to detect that I had any thing going on, because I wanted that fresh scent when I wore it, you know. So I did the Always, and I did the talcum powder because I always wanted to be fresh. And then when I got ovarian cancer, you know, I started learning that, hey, there should have been some other choices. What are some things that we should be looking at when we buy our own health needs for us in that area?
That's a great question. Yeah, and I'm a uterine cancer survivor, and I was an Always fan, and sometimes using tampons and things like that. And research has shown that a lot of those feminine products have a lot of carcinogens and toxins within them. And getting back to what we were talking about earlier is about reading the ingredients. And what these companies have done is that they've excluded some of those ingredients on the package. So even if you read it and you didn't see it listed on there, it doesn't mean that it doesn't contain it. And what they have done is they've bleached these feminine products to make them look white. So it says cotton on there, but it's bleach cotton. And just thinking about putting bleach up next to your private area, you know what I'm saying, to up against your vagina and your labia and all of that. And so it's knowing that these type of things, and there are a lot of great companies now, even Black owned sanitary products. Honey Pot would be the very first one that comes to mind. Amazing products put together by a sister that actually contain herbs inside of the sanitary napkins. So not only do you get the dryness effect from the unbleached cotton, but you're also getting the herbal qualities from different herbs to help with different situations like menstrual cramping, excessive bleeding, maybe some vaginal discharge or whatever like that. So it does help with those things. Personally, I use a menstrual cup, and that has been made with medical grade silicone. Is very effective. I know some people are like, dealing with all the blood and all that other stuff, but for me, it's very effective. It's also more eco-friendly because I'm not contributing to more physical waste or whatever, and you just dispose of the blood into the toilet, and so it's flushed away. Some people actually use that blood for ritual reasons as well, but and pouring it into the earth. So it's so many different ways to look at that, but those chemicals that's inside of those products, it's very scary. And when we look at how it affects especially African American women, we have more womb disorders than other races. The Diva Cup, or there's different types of cups, Zafia, that you can find. Amazon is a great resource. They actually sell them in most of your health food stores. If you go in the sanitary product aisles, they sell them there. But they're more affordable online, actually, to me. But and there's actually a brand called Instead that has disposable cups. That's pretty effective as well. And you can wear those longer. And that's another thing that I like, is that you could wear these longer than the actual sanitary napkins. So you're not having all this saturated blood just and wetness pressed up against your vaginal area. So, this is a great way. So yeah, any organic markets, even now in Walmart and places like that, they have them in the sanitary aisles. You just have to look for them. I know Walmart carries the Instead. Wegmans has the Honey Pot brand, CVS, Target. So they're there. It's just making, again, these educated choices and knowing that they're there, as opposed to, not knowing. So this is why these conversations are vital, because you get to learn more about what's out there. And so yeah, those, and they're actually some natural handmade sanitary napkins, and you can find those on Etsy, and you can support, Black artisans by buying those cotton pads. They're made out of cloth napkins, and they come in the different sizes. So they make them for like the large overnights and panty liners and things like that. And those are a lot more natural as well. And you would just throw them in the wash, hang them in the dryer. Some people like to hang them up to dry, air dry, so that they don't shrink. But yeah, so there's a lot of natural products out there, even for your tampons. Natural Care is another line that I use when I actually want to use a sanitary napkin or a tampon, because it is unbleached cotton and chemical free. And so you also want to look that they have the made safely seal on them, because that is very important to know that some of these companies are very much invested in ensuring that we are getting non-chemical, non-toxic products for our womb care.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that information. I'm going to now kind of dab into your Soulful Touch business. I know that you do the vaginal cleanse, baths, wash,
Vaginal steaming.
the vaginal steamings. Thank you. Can't When we talked about that the other day, that was really the first that I've heard of it. Can you share me some information about that and what are the basic uses and how it's important for me as a health, as a woman trying to, be healthy down there?
Yeah. So vaginal steaming is actually a centuries old process. There's several different ethnic groups that use these steaming protocols to help women overcome different things from infertility to fibroids to just toning and strengthening the womb after pregnancy, helping with menstrual cramps, helping with menopause, even for women who've had hysterectomies to stay connected to their energetic womb space. There's several different schools of thought on how to do it. There's actually certifications out there. I'm actually certified in the womb sauna tradition from beautiful sister Tima of the womb sauna here in Washington, D.C. Well, she's in the DMV area. And in this process, you're actually sitting over a pot of herbs that have been steeped, and the actual steam from the herbs is then allowed to flow inside of the womb and around the womb to help, again, help with some of those situations that I spoke of earlier. And it's a very spiritual process. It's been very much commercialized now. You're seeing the stars on the reality shows are doing it now and everything. My biggest concern is when I see women drinking while they're doing it, because people are selling it as a spa service and they are, steam with a girlfriend and they're drinking wine or cocktails or whatever, which defeats the purpose. You know what I'm saying? Why solicit a healthy service and then have someone ingest something that's typically not healthy for them, And so the vaginal steaming is a very secret process. And so with the womb sauna tradition, we actually take you through breathing exercises. We talk about some things that may be going on spiritually and psychologically that may be affecting things that's going on with the womb. So it's more than you just sitting over the pot of herbs. You're actually getting what I call a soul sweat. And so it's very powerful experience, and it's something that I feel that more women, especially African American women, need to incorporate into their, holistic health toolbox. And it's something that I pride myself in. And I've had some success with helping women overcome some spiritual challenges as well as some physical challenges that they were dealing with their womb, just from one steam. So, it's up to you to decide, like, is this something that I need to do monthly? Some people do it weekly. Some people do it several times a week, depending on what they have going on with the body. So we're talking like yeast infections, infertility, those type of things. So this is a very beneficial process that really helps to fortify and sanctify the womb space.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. It's like, I think a lot of times that we don't share enough information because we feel like that's too personal. I don't want to talk about that. But this is where we suffer the most, in those personal spaces, when we don't talk about and have those conversations and share that information. While we're talking to you and sharing information, can you tell us about the Bellagichi Gathering that's taking place soon and how we could get more health information from your event?
Yes, of course. So the Bellagichi Herbal Gathering is my ancestral assignment, and this is the second annual culmination of that. And so it is a herbal conference for Black and Indigenous herbalists and beloved community to come together and converge and share their, acquired knowledge, as well as network with each other. So there's 12 workshops that will happen, 4 sessions of 3 different workshops simultaneously that span the gamut from Yoruba herbs to there's a plant walk. Dr. Yu is actually one of the presenters as well. He's going to be talking about respiratory health. So it's a great way for African Americans to come and learn from people that look like us. There's so many herbal conferences out there, and when we attend, we are the minority, and a lot of times they are sharing information that they gleaned from African American and indigenous people. So why not get that knowledge first and foremost from the people who originated the information? So the Herbal Gathering is happening on March 27th in my hometown of Johns Island, South Carolina, which is within the Gullah Geechee Nation, and on my family's private property, but it's also being streamed virtually online. So the in-person tickets are pretty much almost sold out. So we are encouraging people to sign up to buy tickets for the virtual sessions, and so that they can still attend in the comforts of their home and get this knowledge. And so, this is an opportunity to learn from amazing herbalists from around the country. We have Sister Iowa Ngozi, who's coming from Boston. We have Sister Lucretia Van Dyke, who's talking about Appalachian herbs and from the Afro-American perspective. So, it spans the gamut of different types of workshops. We have Gullah Geechee presenters as well, who are from the Gullah Geechee Nation, and specifically Charleston, South Carolina. So it's an amazing opportunity to come and learn African American and indigenous herbs from African American and indigenous people. And it's GullahGeecheeHerbalGathering.com.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you, to take us to the link so that we know where to go and sign in and get our tickets. I know I benefited well from being there last year. I was celebrating the beginning of this year that being connected to the Chi, having you and Dr. Yu and all of the people that are in my holistic circle has kept me out of the hospital for a whole year, where I would usually be in and out the hospital and 2-3 week stays each time I go in with one issue to another issue. Now, am I perfectly healthy? I'm still having challenges, but my body is bouncing back and it's healing. It's like, and I'm doing things naturally. So the more information and the more opportunities to go and learn, it's rewarding to know that I am not connected to pills and things and stuff. And if I get a high blood pressure spike, there's some things I could do naturally that brings me right back to where I need to be. So I encourage everyone to go to the Gullah Geechee Gathering. One more question. Thank you. Gullah Geechee Herbal Gathering.
Thank you.
That's a mouthful, but it's powerful. So make sure you get there. Make sure you get there. And you can benefit online because you get to take in and just absorb and focus on what's going on when you are online. And so, like sometimes a kid, you all over the place when you in the space, but you could be more focused on where you need to be online. So don't sleep on that opportunity. Dr. Yu, there was a question about reading the codes on the foods. How do you, when you're picking your healthy foods, what do those barcodes mean?
Okay. Well, if you're talking about the produce, there's what's called the PLU number. So like any kind of produce that you get, an apple, an orange, usually is more so with the fruits. You may see what's called the PLU code. But vegetables have it as well, but fruits is more evident because they put the stickers on. And those codes will have like little numbers. Usually it's either 4 numbers or 5 numbers on there. So if the number starts with a 4, and there's 4 numbers, then that means that it's a quote unquote conventional produce item. That means that it's grown. They could potentially use pesticides or chemical pesticides or chemical fertilizers in the growing of that food. but it's grown naturally, minus the fact that they use those elements in the growing of that particular food. If it has a 3 in the beginning, from what I was taught and what I've observed, initially that indicated that it might have gone through a little bit of more like tampering in terms of the growing process. It might have been modified a bit. So now if it's a 5-digit number and it starts with a 9, that's usually organic produce. So if it's 9, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm just throwing a number out there. That's an organic whatever. So usually if, let's say if an apple's code is 4110, I'm just making up a number. If it's an organic apple, then the code would be 94110. So whatever the regular conventional code is, they'll put a 9 in front of it if it's organic. So that's basically what the PLU codes tend to indicate. Sometimes you may see a 9 in front of something that starts with a 3. So a pomegranate might be, I don't know the particular codes off the top of my head, but let's say pomegranate might be 3711. If you see 93711, that means that the pomegranate is organic. And organic, through technical terminology, basically means that it's grown without chemical fertilizers or without chemical pesticides. Now, the definitions of those things can sometimes be a little bit fuzzy. There's loopholes, that these different companies can kind of like, it's politics involved with this too. People pay money, they could get organic certification, and then it's like, okay, is this really organic? Because organic stuff is supposed to be grown naturally the way it grows in nature. That's the real meaning of organic. But sometimes organic becomes a technicality where it's now a political term, as long as it's grown without these chemical fertilizers or pesticides. And it has to meet certain standards as well. Not to say that's just the only thing, but there's certain standards that has to be met, but you pay for organic certification. So that's basically what you can find out through those PLU codes.
Thank you. Yeah, I find it interesting that you get organic grapes with no seeds and a whole bunch of organic food without seeds. Like, that's always bewildering to me, because I'm like, how is this? How is this? But when you start understanding the politics behind it, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it.
I personally stay away from most seedless fruits as much as possible, because the seedless fruit, just like let's say a woman, and this is the best comparison that I can give. A woman naturally has the capability to bring forth a child, right? So we know that if a woman does not have the capability to bring forth a child for any reason, that indicates that there's an abnormality with that woman. So we understand that that's not healthy, it's not healthy, and it's not normal for a woman to be barren, so to speak. So what about with a fruit? It indicates something very similar, and actually the way that they get, even though it's done purposely, but the way that they breed seedless fruits is to actually introduce some type of virus into the seed's genetic material. So, again, it's just an indicator that something is a little bit off, with the natural state of this particular item.
Wow. Well, this has really been a powerful session. Thank you, Ketnu. Thank you, Dr. Yu, for all of your sharing on today. And we invite you. Okay, go ahead.
Before you close out, we do have a detox that's coming up, the Collective Health Initiative, and we want to invite you to be a part of that. And it's coming up in March, so stay tuned to the Collective Health Initiative page, as well as the Collective Health Initiative group if you're not a member already, so that you can learn more about our upcoming detox. We had some really great feedback from last year's detox. It really jump-started a lot of people's holistic health regimen and everything. So be sure to tune in for that and learn more about that. We're starting next month, so prepare yourself, start getting your grocery lists together, and we will give you guided instructions on how to go through the detox, so you're not grasping for straws and trying to figure things out. And there's going to be a flyer with all the information coming really soon on the Collective Health Initiative page.
Right. And the other announcement, we are still taking your questions, any topics that you want to hear, any things that you want us to address, send that information to us, and we will in kind send you a nice thank you gift, prize, reward, just for sharing with us in our space. Again, this has been the health class you've never had. Thank you for joining us. Stay tuned to join us again next week.
Peace.